want to fend for myself, and I want to build people up for them to fend for themselves. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of the Free Like Me podcast, where guests come on, speak their truth, and leave free like me. The whole purpose of this is to just show you that we are capable of overcoming the hell our life has taken on, and we can flourish in life again. If I can do it, if my guests can do it, you got to believe that you can do it too. So there's no one set way for all. So that's why I want to bring guests on to hear how they've done it. And you can take something from all of us, apply it to your life, and take your life in a new direction. I have the Free Like Me coaching program up and running. You can contact me on social media. We can schedule an appointment for you, and we can get you going in a new direction. If you would, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes to the podcast, and share them if you find them helpful or interesting. And this week's guest, we're going to start off a little different. Instead of going from the past and coming to the future, we're going to start in the present and go to the past. He was one of those Kensington Avenue zombies in Philly, and you just don't hear about people that come back once they're on that street. My guest, Westley Morris, did come back, and we're going to hear all about it now. Brother.
My man.
It's a privilege to have you here.
The honor. It's an honor.
Man, I see the videos of Skid Row in LA and Kensington Avenue in Philly, and people have just completely lost their minds, and it's got to be a short lifespan for them, and you were one of those dudes.
Yeah, man. It's it's like a third world country.
It absolutely looks like it.
Yeah, it was. And I saw the darkest side of evil on those streets of Kensington. It was wild.
I bet. We're going to do a little different and talk about your present, how you're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to hear people how you're flourishing, and then we'll take them back to where the hell you were.
Yeah.
And, we were just talking before the podcast started how I just lost one of my best friends on Friday.
Yeah.
The guy was literally 150 yards from his road where he lived, and he was the first house on the road. So he was 250 yards from home.
Yeah.
And in a convertible, drove off the side of the road, got thrown from the convertible, and died on impact. Yeah. And he and I were like lifelong friends, big party buddies. And he just, he didn't want to, he didn't want to take his foot off the gas pedal of life, kept it going. And just trying to get through to him over the years. His sister would constantly reach out to me, her baby brother, can't you get through to him, Clarky? And I would try, and he'd be like, look, bro, I am so proud of you and where you are at and what you overcame. He goes, but that's just not what I'm looking to do with my life right now. Mm-hmm. And before changes could be made, he's gone. And, have you found that with anybody close to you? If you were living on the streets, living the life you were, you had to know tons of people, I'm sure.
We really never know how much sand is in that upper hourglass. You really don't.
Right.
You don't. It could happen that way. It could happen another way, but you just never know when your expiration date is.
Right.
But to answer your question, I know people. Look, I know people that have found recovery, have flourished in recovery, have given it back, and who have never got it back again. They've never got that spark, that desire, that fire inside of them. And it's one of those things like I was alluding to, that if I could impress desire into someone's spirit,
right.
I don't know. Number one, I would be a multi-billionaire.
Right.
But desire is one of those things that I truly believe is a spiritual principle, and it's a gift. It's definitely a gift. And I have given that gift back, and thank God that I have gotten, a second chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My buddy, he early on, through a good part of his life, he was extremely successful.
Hmm.
Always had a ton of money. And then he just started trying to go for the home run. And he put money into this business, that business, that business, that business, and none of them panned out.
Oof.
And the more each business didn't pan out, the more depressed he got and the more he drank.
Mm.
And the same thing with, I lost my brother a year ago, February. And he suffered losing his business. He suffered losing his marriage. He had a beautiful farm in Stillwater. He lost that. And he just, those failures defeated him. I always say, don't allow a failure to turn into a defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And he just became defeated. And those defeats drove him to drink himself to death, and it's just heartbreaking.
I always say you can never fix a spiritual void with a physical thing.
Can never fix a spiritual void with a physical thing. Correct.
I don't care how big it is. I don't care how much money you have. If there's a spiritual void in there and you're trying to fix it with a physical thing, it'll never work, man.
I want to stay on that for a second because the two people I just mentioned, my buddy and my brother. My brother didn't want to hear anything about God, spirituality, nothing. He was abused early on, and that abuse is a soul killer and it's a faith killer. How could a creator, allow evil like that to happen to us? And every person who goes through abuse struggles to get their faith back. But to heal, you really gotta mend that fence with a higher power. And my buddy too. I did a charity event back in 2019, and my friend who just died came to that event. And after listening to my whole life story, he called me up, whether it was 2-3 days later, whatever it was, and he's like, he goes, you make it impossible not to believe in a higher power has been at work in your life. He goes, it's just after hearing your speech, he goes, there's definitely something that's been at work. And I'm like,
well done.
All right, bro. And let's apply it to you. He's like, yeah, I just don't feel it at work in me. And I'm like, because you're not giving it a chance. You can't just, you have to come meet God halfway, Yeah. And then stuff will start happening for you.
Oh, man.
But exactly what you touched on, those two had that spiritual void. And I've said, just like you said, nothing in our outside world will ever heal that inside world. Mm-hmm. You have to go in, a boat, a private jet, whatever it is. It's not going to heal what's missing inside. Mm-hmm. It's only going to make it worse. It's going to make it more glaring, obviously, what you're lacking.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
And it could be taken away, to your point.
Yeah, and then what? My brother had his stuff taken away.
Yeah.
And then he was left an empty shell.
Yeah, with a deeper void.
With a deeper void. Did you have a void for a long part of your life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I saw you get teared up here.
There's something in here going on. There's something electric in here, and it's good. And I just want to tell you that I read people very, very well. It's my defense mechanism, as well as, I was a master massage therapist, so I put my hands on thousands of people, and I'm very in tune with energy. And I just want to tell you that you care.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. You're a genuine man, and you're not just here just to exploit anything. You genuinely want to help people, and that's a rarity to find, my friend.
Yeah, as I've said to people, I got to pay studio time, and my show doesn't have, Joe Rogan numbers where I'm getting $100 million deal from Spotify.
Yeah.
So it's out of my pocket, but it's something I feel I got to do just to help people, I don't want to lose another brother. I don't want to lose another best friend, if I can do this and just save somebody.
And that's the only way that we get to keep what we have.
Right.
is to give it. So,
I've told people, I do motivational speaking, and I'm like, I can't sit on my couch with a clicker in my hand and say I'm healed.
Nah.
And that's it. Like
No.
I gotta give back, and I gotta help the next person heal.
Right. Gratitude is an action. It's an action. And I, whenever I'm working with, I like to work with young athletes, young wrestlers specifically. I say, what are you grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health. Really? How are you expressing that? What actions are you taking to show, to participate in that gratitude? So this is, you showing that. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about before we go back to when you were living in hell.
Yeah.
And I say, one of the most famous lines from the Bible is, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And the most important word, the valley of the shadow of death is just the hell our life can take on. Mm-hmm. Losing a best friend, marriage disintegrating, losing your job, whatever it is. The valley of shadow of death is just the hell your life is in at the moment. Mm-hmm. Losing a child to a fentanyl overdose,
Yeah.
But the most important word is that even though I walk through, the word through, you got to get through hell.
Yeah.
I set up camp for decades of my life, built a fire and was roasting marshmallows in camp in hell, and thinking, all right, this is it. This is it. And from what I know of your story so far, you were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We got to get through it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's going to be amazing to hear that you made it through after where you were, so you make it through hell. And where does your life go once you got through hell?
Yeah. So right now, I'm working on the book. The book is 98% completed. It's called Keep Pedaling. It's the 12 tools that I learned on a bicycle to create a successful, meaningful, and purposeful life. And using those tools, I'm actually getting ready. God willing, I'm on a Olympic class team. So I'm on Team Talitha, which is Talitha Diggs. She's a world champion in the 400 meter. We're getting ready for qualifiers. So essentially, when she qualifies for the Olympics, I'll be heading to Paris, France.
When you say you're on her team, what are you doing? I know you're a coach. Are you coaching? Are you inspiring?
No. So sometimes when you're an elite athlete, you need someone with pure intentions. And it started out as a massage therapist, but it has grown into a spiritual guide, a mentor, someone that just has her best interests at heart.
Cool.
And that's the part that I play on Team Talitha.
I'm sure when you get to that level, there's got to be a lot of vampires trying to suck some blood out of you.
I imagine, not just at that level, but in general, people usually have alternative motives or their own agenda, either subconsciously or consciously.
Right.
But to find someone with pure intentions and no expectations in return, that's an asset to have on any team.
And you mentioned coaching wrestlers, or
so mindset training, basically.
Yeah.
I represent the transformation that people want to see in themselves, their organization, their business, and their team. And what I do is I represent what's possible when we remove the limiting beliefs that we hold about ourselves and our potential. And I do that in a systematic way for other people so that they can unlock the doors of their potential. And it just so happens that I love wrestling. I grew up as a wrestler, so that's the group that I like to help the most.
And what age are you concentrating? Like high school kids?
Yeah, usually at the high school level, but I've also spoken to Lehigh University wrestling team. I would love to speak to Penn State, Rutgers, whatever the case may be, but usually in the high school to collegiate level.
Right.
Yeah.
And what else? I heard you mention massage therapy. Is that something you do or did? Where does that come into play?
So I owned a business for about 7 years, and that's a whole story that we'll get into in a second. But I became a master massage therapist. I've worked with, NFL, PGA, Olympic class athletes, did it at the highest level and really mastered my craft in that industry.
And you don't do it. You sold the business or got out of it, or
I gave it back to my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, gave it back to my mom.
And do you do it any longer?
No, not really. Just speaking, coaching, and also helping people to convert to solar energy.
Solar energy?
Yeah. We have a huge energy crisis in this country that people are unaware of.
Right.
And, I help them take advantage of the tax credits that are available by converting their home into solar energy.
All right. Cool.
It's cool.
And you do motivational speaking?
Yeah. So professional speaker, probably speak about 20 to 25 times a year.
Oh, wowzers.
Yeah. And that's really my passion. I'm very passionate about that.
And where are you speaking at?
Government agencies, healthcare agencies, businesses with sales teams, things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah. When I start speaking, I found I don't know. Have you spoken at rehabs? Substance abuse centers?
I have. My experience in my local area is that they just don't have the dollars, or they don't want to put the dollars behind
bringing it. That was like my go-to, when I started speaking.
Yeah.
So I probably did 30 speeches before I ever got paid for one.
I did it for 8 years before.
Right. Right.
I didn't even know you could get paid.
Right.
I had no clue.
I just, I wanted to give back.
No doubt.
And substance abuse centers were just like, will you come speak? I'm like, sure. Will you come speak? Sure.
Right.
And those were my go-tos early on, and then just speaking at a couple high schools and some colleges and churches, just, getting comfortable revealing my soul, to an audience,
It's therapeutic.
Yeah. And it was helping me heal, and they were all loving it. So and then it's morphed into getting paid finally, and everything I Googled online, like every speaker's like, you got to put in your dues first and hone your craft, before you can expect to receive $1.
Yeah, you got to get good.
Yeah,
you got to get good, and there really is an art to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I studied, the greatest speakers in the world of our time, going back to, Jim Rohn and Les Brown.
Love those guys.
Yeah, and they were all trained by a guy named Bill Gove. And how I got introduced to Bill Gove was by way of Paul Martinelli. Paul Martinelli has been my mentor for probably the last 4 years, and he really took me from a guy that could speak to a professional speaker. And that was a big gap, but the things that I learned in that process were extraordinary. Yeah.
All right. Let's go backwards now.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
I'm supposed to be a farm boy. So Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. I come from an area where work ethic is very important.
Isn't there a college in Bloomsburg?
There is, Bloomsburg University.
Yeah.
And my fifth generation of farmers, family still owns collectively probably about 1,500 acres.
Really?
In Bloomsburg.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Spent a lot of time on the farm growing up by, in the summer times and holidays and things of that nature.
What was your home life like? Mom and dad together in the picture together?
So parents, I grew when I was born in 1984. We lived in poverty. I didn't know it was poverty, and we lived in a cabin, and they had a small farm, and things were tough. Yeah, and then at nine months old, I couldn't even remember, but they got divorced, and my mom took us to the Lehigh Valley, which is Allentown, Pennsylvania, that area.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom worked for my aunt, and my aunt had a massage parlor. Now, this is 1985, okay? So they did, happy endings, right? And apparently this is all told to me by my mom, but she got tired of that lifestyle, right? She got tired of just, essentially it was sex trafficking.
Pleasuring guys.
Yeah. And just all that. So
for people that don't know, happy ending, is
They were jerking guys
Jerking
off
guys off.
at the end of the massage. Right.
All right, Mom.
Yeah. So,
Hey, you're in poverty. You're divorced. You got kids.
Yeah.
and you gotta put food on the table somehow.
exactly, bro.
You know, I'm not here to judge.
No.
You know, she's.
So, and it's the oldest form of employment known to man. Literally.
Was the aunt doing that prior to? Was it that type of massage parlor prior to your mother coming on?
100%.
Okay, it was.
So I've never even discussed this because I don't know how true it is, but there was an Uncle Hank, okay? Uncle Hank and Aunt Dory, right, had the massage parlor.
Okay.
Uncle Hank apparently had some connections to the five families.
Okay.
I don't know how true that is. I was a little kid, right? But they had a place in the Poconos and, you know, it could have been true for sure, right? So Mom has two little kids, right? A scared little farm girl, no real job skills, life skills. And yeah, the opportunity comes to work there. She takes it. She's got to provide, right? She was a good looking woman. And it is what it is, right? It's just my truth. So at 5 years old, she says, I'm going to break away from that, right? And I'm going to go over here a couple miles away. I'm going to open up my own business. I'm going to do therapeutic, legitimate massage, right? She buys the building. She's an entrepreneur. She puts, does the whole 9 yards. And she was my hero. We lived on the apartment above of the business, right? Thought I had a normal life. Had a stepdad, his name was Booner. That was my mom's boyfriend at the time. And we had a puppy dog. And, in the 80s, it was very, fur coats and the whole machismo thing. You know what I'm saying? My stepdad was Italian.
80s were big hair and
big hair,
look.
bro. My mom had a Firebird, right? It was sick, dude.
Right.
I had to sit on the drive shaft in the back seat. You know what I mean? And it's just it was what it was. And look, they did cocaine. They did. So they were party parents, right? And that's just how they got down. But when you're a kid, you don't have the ability to reason. You don't develop that mental faculty until you're about 10, 12 years old. So you simply just accept everything that you're exposed to as being truth. That's why we thought that Santa Claus was really real, right?
Right.
So, growing up, it was, it was nothing to wake up at 2:00 in the morning and have my parents in an all out brawl because the cocaine was done. You know what I'm saying?
Who did the last line?
Oh God. And just waking up to violence. I think our house got raided when I was 7 because they were selling cocaine in a small town. But still, you don't have the ability to reason. So you think everybody's house gets raided.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is just normal life.
How do you know different?
Exactly. You don't. And, when you're a kid, regardless of really what you go through, it's a natural instinct to love our parents, no matter what's going on. Right.
Right.
You don't, so that was my parents and this is my life. I didn't know any different.
You mentioned a sibling. What was it? A sister, a brother, older, younger?
Yeah. So I have a sister who's 3 years older, 3.5 years older.
All right.
Yeah.
So you were the baby.
Yeah. I was the baby.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're around 6, 7, and she's around 10 when the house is getting raided and there's fights and there's cocaine. And,
Yeah.
And
yeah. And there's
both of you are just like, every family must be dysfunctional like this.
Yeah.
Not even that the word dysfunction, but you're just like, this is just what life is.
And Mom's business was downstairs. So the massage business was literally right downstairs. So we lived in the apartment above and, Mom would come home 8 o'clock at night. Right. And, I'm thinking my mom's an entrepreneur. This is my stepdad, yeah, they're emotionally volatile, but you don't know any different, And then my whole life changed when I was 12 years old. So when I'm 12 years old, I come home from wrestling practice. You know, I thought I had a normal life, football, baseball, wrestling, living in small town America. And the state police detectives had my whole house surrounded. So I'm standing on the corner and I'm scared. I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. State police everywhere. It looked like an episode of Cops, man. It was wild. Raided. And I see my mom get carried out in handcuffs at 12 years old. And I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. And that night, I'm asking my stepdad, like, you know, what's going on? And he won't tell me. The next day, I go to school, and all the kids made fun of me. And that's how I found out my mom was running a prostitution ring, a sex trafficking enterprise out of her massage business. Yeah. And
so you were told it was going to be legit when she left the aunt, but it was the same thing.
Well, I was too young to know what was going on with the aunt.
Right.
But in my mind, I literally thought, you know, this is just a legitimate business and this is what my mom does, right? Had no clue, right? And look, in hindsight, she had the best intentions of doing the right thing. But sometimes that little birdie on our shoulder can talk us into doing the wrong thing or...
Right, she might have started off
sure
as legit and like, all right, you know, I was servicing 10 people a day with the aunt, and now I'm doing 3 a week.
Exactly.
As a legitimate business.
Right.
And then pretty soon it's just like,
Bro, business is tough to begin with, right. Literally. To try and do the right thing and a legitimate, it's hard. I've started, created, and grown 3 of them. It's difficult.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So look, you know, the opportunity comes there and you can make some fast cash, man. She's not the first person to do it, dude. OnlyFans makes my mom look like Mother Teresa.
Now everybody can do it legally on OnlyFans.
And make hundreds of thousands of dollars. right? But, you know, in 1997, it's blasphemy, right? You know? So, yeah, that was my family business.
What happened from there?
Here's the greatest part, dude. 12 years old, I watched my mom go through the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen anybody go through ever, right? And I watched her change, make a decision. Your life is literally one decision away from a completely different life, dude. Both good and bad. So I watched my mom get rid of all those girls, get rid of my stepdad, divorce him, right? And said, I'm going to show my kids that you can fall down and you can get back up. While a whole small town kicked her back in, bro. Look, it's one, you know, if you see somebody that's down in life, they don't need any more shame and guilt. They have enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And I believe that you should never look down on someone unless you're reaching down to pick them up. So I watched a whole town kick this woman's back in, right?
Did she have to go to prison?
She had a good lawyer.
Okay. So
yeah.
Like some sort of plea deal.
Yeah, a slap on the wrist, right?
Okay.
Probation.
First offense.
Yeah, it really was just a joke. I mean, really, honestly.
But you got the scarlet letter on you now.
Exactly.
In a small town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Rural Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's not like you're in New York City. It's just like they would be like, yeah, whatever.
A town of 5,000, it's 3.5 miles long, right?
And
predominantly
who
white.
knows who she was servicing? You know what level of prestige they had in the community.
Well, she was really the madam. So there was 9-8 girls at all times. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So it was an enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yeah. So that's what it was. But to come back from that.
So she decides, all right, I'm down. I can either stay in the gutter, become a gutter rat, or I can say, all right, I took a hit and now I learned from it.
Well, here's the thing. She could have easily just closed up shop and moved. She could have ran.
Right.
She could have said, yeah, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to run.
What'd she decide to do?
She decided to stay in the same town underneath the same branding in the same line of business, but make it legitimate, and fought. She fought. She faced her problems head on. She said, I'm going to show my kids that you can fall down and you can get back up. 3 years later, the year 2000, I come home from high school. I'm in high school now. And she said, hey, Mom, how was your day? Wes, I want you to meet somebody. I look to my left, and there's Donovan McNabb walking down the hallway. My mom went on to be the head massage therapist for the Philadelphia Eagles from 2000 to 2012 because she never ran.
Donovan's in your house?
Legit.
In your house.
In the business. Andy Reid, Donovan, Jeremiah Trotter, David Akers, Terrell Owens. Every big name you can think of. Deshaun Jackson.
How did she? All right, take me into how she got that connection. How you go from being busted as running a prostitution ring to 3 years later you got them all.
This is how God works. So the business was half a mile away from Lehigh University. Okay. Lehigh University is where the Eagles would go for training camp. Uh-huh. One day, the head trainer of the Eagles comes in to get a massage. Now, you got to understand, my mom is literally the best massage therapist on the planet, bro. She's effing good. She's good. She found cancer in 3 different people over the course of 30 years.
Really?
Saved their life.
Awesome. So how was it for those 3 years leading up to this chance encounter with the Eagles guy? Was it sparse?
Yeah, it was probably brutal.
Yeah.
You know, look, when you're trying to make a change in life, don't think it's going to be easy.
Right.
You don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to change my life, and then, rainbows and butterflies, buddy. It's hard.
Right. I sat in prison. I just made a post about this today. And I'm like, I had this foolish notion like, all right, my life was hell.
Yeah.
I got a raw deal.
Yeah.
I self-destructed.
Yeah.
Life owes me now.
Now.
When I get out of prison, everything's going to be unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
And especially the older that you get, you got to understand, you didn't get to where you're at overnight.
Correct.
But we think that everything's supposed to change overnight. Nah, it don't happen like that, bro.
No.
Yeah.
We were talking about losing my brother, and my brother would get sober for a couple weeks, and he'd be like, go talk to my daughter and tell her, how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, your relationship didn't get fractured in 2 weeks.
Sure.
Just because you're 2 weeks sober doesn't repair the damage.
Yeah.
I go, you got to get a little more time than that, man.
Yeah.
I go, I can't go to her and say it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I go, it's a good start. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. So that 3 years, it was brutal.
Brutal.
It was brutal. And look, I would come home from school, I would go check on my mom, and she'd be on her hands and knees, mopping the floor. And she'd look up at me with tears in her eyes. I'd say, Mom, what's the matter? She's down on her hands and knees and she's wiping up the floor. And she'd say, Wes, I'm praying. So every time my mom literally to this day gets on her hands and knees to wipe up the floor. She won't mop it. And that's her time of humility. And that's her time to pray.
Every single morning I get on my hands and knees and just pray gratitude that I was awoken for a new day, that my body's working and my mind's working, and my loved ones are still in my life, and thank you.
Yeah,
because it's such a fragile, precious gift we got, and it can be extinguished at any moment.
You never know how much sand is in that hourglass.
No, man. I mean, she had to have that 3 year period as money is just not trickling in. One, she fought off the thoughts of going back to the way it was when she was making money.
For sure.
And 2, she fought off the thoughts of just closing up shop and getting a job at friggin' McDonald's or something,
99.9% of people could not do what this woman did.
No, sucking it up for those 3 years.
Yeah. Look, it takes 20 years to build a good reputation. It takes 5 seconds to lose it. And once you lose it, society may never give it back to you again. And I watched this woman. So I watched her do legitimate massage for the next 20 years. Work with the Eagles, work with big name CEOs, right? But the general she was a Google search away from finding out what happened in 1997. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So that scarlet letter, people will always remember you for the negative things that you did.
Right.
It's just how the human mind works.
If that's what they want to concentrate on.
For sure.
Right. Like people can Google me and just see murder, you
Yeah.
know, and not see the 1,000 good things I'm trying to do, you know?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And if that's what you want to focus on, so be it. You know?
And look, if you put your identity and your self-worth in the opinions of other people, that's a losing battle, bro.
No, you're always going to fail that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So mom gets this amazing encounter with a guy from the Eagles. He goes back and says, "Oh, I found a great therapist."
Yeah, he says, "I'm going to start sending you some people."
And there's Donovan McNabb.
Yeah,
amazing.
And Donovan's like, "Oh, you're going to be my new massage therapist." So she would travel to Philadelphia every Friday to go work on him before games.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this went on for the next 12 years, you said?
Yeah, until they stopped. They stopped going to Lehigh for training camp until the end of Andy Reid's tenure at Philly.
Oh, then they went to another college to train?
Yeah, I think they started training down at the link at the Nova Care Center. Yeah.
Oh. And then from doing them, she also spiraled into CEOs and other high-level executives and stuff.
Well, she came back and made a thriving business, you know. She came back and did the right thing, and I don't think it was gangbusters, but you know, look, to be in business for 28 years through divorce, through the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen anybody go through a fire. There was a fire, through a flood of 2004. This woman just relentless, unbelievable.
So I would have to say that having seen her comeback and seen her failure and her comeback and her struggles and her success, that somewhere deep in you, that's in you as you then have your own struggles and failures.
Oh, dude.
Which enabled you to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, what happened to your life?
So that was a pivotal point in my life, right? Where I realized, oh wow, my family is not the Brady Bunch.
Now you're older and more wiser of
I'm
what's
12.
going on.
I can read the newspapers. You know what I'm saying? We had newspapers back then, right? And that's how I found out that this was a prostitution enterprise, a sex trafficking, right? So that's how I found. And look, seventh grade is a brutal place to be when something like that happens in a small town. You know what I'm saying?
You had to get just jabbed relentlessly from your class.
Terrible. Your mom's a whore.
Yeah,
let's go down to the so and so. Let's go.
Hook me up with your mom.
Wrestling coaches. You know what I'm saying? It was brutal. It was brutal, right? Now in hindsight, their mom was doing it for free. But when you're 13, you don't have that idea, right? So, so look, I turned to drugs and alcohol to cope with my reality. And, it just so happens that when you have a low self-esteem, you attract others with low self-esteem, and you never know what happens behind those closed doors of America. So I found the bad kids and turned to drugs and alcohol at the age of 12, 13 years old. By the time I was 15 years old, my sister, had turned to heroin and basically turned our house into a crack house.
Really?
So at 15 years old, there's people having sex in my bed. There's people smoking crack in the kitchen.
Now, where's mom at this point?
Mom's trying to rebuild the business, and she's working 10, 12 hours a day. And then, she had recently just got divorced. So, she was also 39 years old and, had a little bit of wild side. So would end up at the local bar at the end of the night. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't a saint by any means. But she just was not doing that type of line of work anymore. One day I can't find my sister. It's the summer of 99, and I'm looking for my sister all over. And I go to the bathroom and it's locked. So I knock on the bathroom door. No response. And I kick open the door. Boom! And there's my sister dead on the floor.
Oh, she was dead.
She was blue in the face. She was unresponsive. She had OD'd on fentanyl. And at 15 years old, I gave her CPR resuscitation, and I brought her back to life that day. My sister went on to serve in the U.S. Navy and holds a bachelor's degree from DeSales University.
Really?
I say that to say that 60 seconds later, 60 seconds, we'd be going to a funeral rather than a graduation. That's how precious life is.
Wow.
So, you know,
Was that her wake-up call? That OD?
No, she went on to struggle for the next 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. And anybody that has a sibling or a family member that suffers with specifically opiates, it's brutal. It's incredible the amount of chaos that happens when you don't know what to do. And you're just, because when I'm addicted to drugs, I will pillage and plunder anybody that comes into contact with me. I will manipulate you. I will exploit you, and I'll abuse you. So I've seen the other side of that for 15 years.
You know, just drugs are so powerful. You see your sister blue in the face, dead on the floor, and it doesn't say in your mind, we are never, ever, ever going to touch that.
No, it did. It did.
For a little while.
No, it registered.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I looked at the substance of, and it was specifically heroin.
Correct.
And I said, I will never do that shit. Ever.
All right.
And I meant it. But the biggest drug dealer I ever met had PhD behind his name, bro.
Oh, start with pain pills?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me too. That's how I started.
Yep.
You know, I had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Tommy, and he idolized his uncle, and his uncle died of a heroin overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, 3 days later, Tommy's trying heroin after, you know, his uncle just OD'd from it and died. You know, and you know, the pull of substances on our soul is so strong. You know, it just pulls us right in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I told myself, you know, like you just said there, like seeing her dead, you said, I'll never do that. I told myself I would never, ever, 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 ever do heroin. And yet when pain pills got hard to find
and expensive,
you're paying $1 a gram, and you know, an $80 milligram Oxycontin's $80.
Yeah.
And somebody says, what the hell are you messing with those for? You can get a $5 packet of dope, and it's the same. You're doing heroin in a pill. What the hell's the difference? I'm like, you got a point there.
Yeah.
You know? And boom, you're doing heroin. Just like that.
And then next thing, you know, you're sniffing it and somebody says you're wasting it, right? Yeah. And next thing you know, you got a 3-4 day. So hold on.
So how did we get into pain pills?
So, all right.
You know, so at 15, when you find her, what are you doing up to that? Right? Just like drinking mainly? Maybe weed?
It was oldie blunts and it was oldie 40s and Philly blunts. You know what I mean? It was just smoking weed and I was a pothead, right? Yeah, and drinking alcohol. But you know, there was something different with me. Whereas even at a young age, when everyone else would stop, I would go to the extremes. I'm an extreme person. You could probably tell just being in the room with
your
me.
energy is extreme.
It's intense, right? I'm a maniac in everything that I do. So I go to the extremes. By the time I was 19 years old, I had 3 DUI charges and 7 underage drinking charges. The state of Pennsylvania took my license away for 22 years, my dude.
At 19.
At 19 years old, 22 years, they took my license away, bro. High speed chases.
So you're talking into your 40s before you can get your license back.
Yeah,
if you don't accrue anymore.
When you're 19 years old and you look at, you're not even 22 years old.
You're not even legal drinking age yet. No. Your license is gone for over 2 decades.
F it.
At 20, if you're taking it for 22 years, what the hell's another 5-10 more years, right?
When they picked me up at the police station for my third DUI, I was going 99 miles an hour in a 65. And they brought me home, and that was the closest I ever thought to killing myself. That's the closest I ever came to, why do I keep doing this, bro? And yeah, I couldn't come up with an answer. Not at 19 years old. No.
Wow.
So I lost my license for 22 years, and I did what most of us do when our life is in the garbage. I'll change locations. Genius.
Right.
Right. I know the problem. It's this town.
Right. They all know me here.
It's those cops. They're profiling me, right? My family's got a bad name here. You know what I mean? I'll move to Philadelphia. Genius.
I'll get lost in Philly.
Sure.
All right.
Exactly. I just need a change. You can go anywhere in the world. You're going to take you with you.
Right.
You're going to go. You can go to Egypt. You're going to take you with you, man. And that's what I did. I moved to Philadelphia, and I'm a worker. I'm a grinder. So I pride myself on my work ethic. Plus, I come from a culture of farmers.
Tough workers.
Yeah, you make hay while the sun's shining, right? That's the programming that I was given.
Now you mentioned pain pills. At this point, are you doing pain pills yet?
No,
okay.
I'm just.
So we go off to Philly just with the DUIs and smoking some weed. And
go down to Philly, drinking. I'm every 21, 22, 23-year-old kid is, out at the bars, chasing women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just living that lifestyle. And then I got introduced to cocaine, and, I thought it was cool because it would keep me up, and I could party longer. But I'll never forget it being a Friday, getting an 8-ball of Coke, being by myself, sniffing that Coke. Next thing you know, I'm in front of the laptop for 3.5 hours, just abusing myself, right? And then it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and the birds are chirping, and the sun's coming up.
That's the worst feeling, isn't it?
And the drugs are gone. And I never felt so alone in my life, my dude. Yeah. Swearing that I'll never do this again. Never do this again. Oh, God, I could feel the shame and guilt. And, that cycle went on for a few years. And then I was a welder, right? I was an iron worker. I was a welder. And I got hurt, got something in my eye from a piece of metal or something. And somebody gives me prescription pain medic, some Percocets, and I was like, wow, I can work like 10, 12 hours and not feel nothing, dude. Oh, this is great, right? And the extreme person in myself was like, well, if one's good, two's better.
Right.
Next thing you know, I'm fully addicted. Next thing you know, I'm in Kensington, Philadelphia, the largest open-air drug market in the country. And I'm copping dope. And here's the sick part. When I did sniff that first bag, I literally said in my mind, I want to find out what took my sister away from me. Weird question.
Right.
And I found out.
You really don't want to know the answer, but
no. And that substance took me to the darkest place that I've ever been. I was, socially, we hold on to social acceptability. As long as I'm not bad as them, I'll be okay, right? As long as I'm not doing this, everything's okay. And I found myself, I lost the job, the apartment, the girlfriend, the car, and I was reduced to being a homeless heroin addict.
So when you first went to Kensington Avenue, you just were copping. You still had your job and your apartment and girlfriend and all that. And I'm just going to go see. Like the pain pill made me feel good.
Sure.
So let's see what this stuff. I hurt my back and I went to a doctor and he prescribed me 30 Vicodins. I'd never taken a pain pill in my life.
Right.
And just like you, I was like, holy smokes, I can work like I'm 17 again.
Yeah.
I was just like, let's go.
Right.
And I called the doctor up, a couple of days later. I'm like, hey, those things are great, man. I was able to just tear it up at work. And he's like, you're done already? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, that was way too fast. I'll
Oh.
give you 10 more. That's it. Well, that wasn't acceptable, and I knew people for coke and whatever else I wanted to get them. Just started asking them for pain pills, and then
Right.
boom, 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 boom. So all of a sudden, you got a network for pills, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's weird how
and then
that
you're off to the
happens.
races.
Yeah. And look, we're coming out of the industrial revolution age of America, right? Being able to work is a very important thing, especially physical labor, you know? You give someone that has to physically do labor something that they don't have to feel the pain, it's almost instantaneous that I'm going to be addicted like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go to Kensington Ave and you just start getting, your dope.
Yeah, well, I think with Kensington, I started to cop pills in Kensington.
Okay, that's where it started first.
Well, no, it started
pills.
with the prescription. Once that ran out, I had to cop in Kensington, right? And it just got more and more and more and more expensive, and I had to steal and pillage and lie in order to get to what I. So it's like I have this dirty little secret, but I can't tell anybody because I'm so ashamed that if anybody finds out I'm addicted to pain pills, like they're gonna look at me different. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can't really be honest. Plus, my sister had went through decades of opiate abuse, right? So I can't tell anybody, what my life is. Look, it's one thing to have a problem. It's another thing not to be able to talk to anybody about it. And the shame and guilt that I felt as a result of what my life had become was more, just kept me stuck, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the whole bottom falls out on you.
Yeah, bro.
And you lose every job, apartment, girlfriend, and you're homeless.
Yep.
And and you just move on to Kensington Avenue.
Yep. Pretty much. Yep. Selling bottles of water.
Selling bottles of water. I was just going to say, how did you get money to even get stuff?
I would go to the grocery store, load up with the cart with water bottles, packs, and fucking just walk out. Or I would steal scrap metal from old abandoned buildings. Copper was my thing, but I'd scrap anything. I'd scrap my mom. I'd scrap a cousin.
Literally.
I'd sell anything.
Right.
I'd sell anything.
So you're stealing the case of water.
Yeah, stealing a case.
Just walking out with a case of water.
Yeah,
and then
a couple of them. Yep,
and then selling them on the street.
Load the cart up and just walk out like you're supposed to be doing it.
Just like I paid and I'm just walking out.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like, have we moved on to fentanyl? At this point,
this was 2012, and fentanyl wasn't
really. That's when I got out, and it started like a year or so later.
Yeah,
just starting to put it in.
Yeah,
I just missed that run.
Yeah.
All right, so 2012, so it's still heroin.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. But you really don't know what the hell's in there. I mean,
right.
Yeah, they would line us up in the back of the building, and they were always South Americans. They spoke very little English. It was all like cartels.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
they're running the drug trade in Kensington Ave.
Yeah, young kids, tattooed face, look like they got nothing to live for.
Really?
So yeah, they get caught. They don't care, bro. And that's who that at the street level of workers. Here's the thing about the drug trade, man. They really operated it like a business. It was incredible. If you would take some of these people and put them in legitimate businesses, they would skyrocket, dude. They're brilliant. They're brilliant from operations to marketing. It just unbelievable. But so they would line us up in the back of the building, and I'm waiting to get served, and I look down at the guy in front of me, and he's got one leg. He had lost it from using. And it was almost like the ghost of Christmas future, where I saw what my life was about to be, right? And it wasn't right then that I stopped, but it was definitely a moment that I'll never forget.
What type of horrors are you seeing on the street, living on the street?
Man,
what are you experiencing? Take us into that world.
Bro, I'm watching people with abscesses. I'm looking at just dirty dirty, nasty things. Everything smelled like shit and piss.
Yeah, where are people going to the bathroom? Right there on the street?
Bro. Yeah.
Just dropping their drawers and
You're at an animalistic level. You're really just surviving. And the thing about drugs is it especially opiates, it affects the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that monitors our basic human needs: food, water, shelter, breathing, so it literally tells you that if you don't get this substance, you're going to die. That's what it tells you in your mind.
right.
And therefore you'll do whatever it takes in order to not die. Because you think that if I don't get this thing, I'm going to get sick. It's going to be bad. I'm going to die. Right? That's the thought process. So just nasty, dirty, horrific things. I've seen women just do whatever is necessary in order to
having sex with whoever. I mean, you got to see sex right on the street then, right?
Yeah, sex. People getting beat.
Robbed, beat.
Oh, man, I seen this dude just get knocked out cold right in front of me, bro. Just big 6'5" Irish drug dealer, dude. He had grown up in Kensington, and he was trying to tell the dude not to go down there, and the dude wouldn't listen, copped the attitude, and popped him right there. He was out cold. And then he grabbed the girl that he was with. He grabbed her bag, shook it out, took all the money, and just went about his day, like it was no big thing. And cops, they can't do anything.
Are they on the street? Are they down there? Are you seeing them? You're seeing them.
Yeah,
they're just.
There's no way that they can stop it, so they just contain it. I got stopped. He just took my drugs and said, "Move, get out of here." Left me my Suboxone.
It's like a war zone, right?
It's like a war zone, a third world country, bro, where the buildings are falling apart.
And how can the politicians that have allowed this to happen, how can they think this is a good idea? My last guest that I interviewed was from California.
Yeah.
And he started off the conversation talking about San Francisco. And he's like, you just would not believe that they've turned this gorgeous city into a third world country. Same thing you're saying. And he's like, there's apps on which streets. There's a shit app that'll tell you which streets in San Fran have the most human feces on them to avoid.
Oh, wow.
He's like, it's insanity. He's like, and who thinks this is a good idea now? And it's the same thing. Like, how can they?
I don't have all the answers. I don't. But with the level of awareness that I have now, okay, it's so much bigger than just the local political level. Like all the old school junkies, the people that are still alive, they know. They say, Wes, one day, no heroin, all fentanyl. And basically they found out that Obama said, hey, China, this billions of dollars that we owe you, we're just not going to pay you. And China said, oh, yeah? Okay, great. We're going to mass produce fentanyl. We're going to bring it into flood your country by way of South America, so it looks like the cartels are doing it. And we're going to kill off millions of your people. It's not by accident, dude.
Right.
And anybody thinks that this is just the war on drugs has no clue what they're talking about.
So you're on that street and you're seeing all the drugs are run by Spanish cartels.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like the blacks of Philly are running the drug trade. It's run from the cartel people.
You got young kids that will take your life for $5,000 and think nothing of it. Pull out a gun and your life is done. and they'll get deported and back to Ecuador or wherever they're from. And yeah, human life is cheap in Kensington, Philadelphia, bro.
So how do we get Wes off the streets when we're down there? Where does it take you? How do we correct your life?
You know, there's a guy named Buddy Osborne. He runs the Rock Ministry. It's right in the heart of Kensington. It's called Rock Ministry, Buddy Osborne. One day I'm copping, and I had a moment of clarity where I knew that I wasn't supposed to be here, and I knew that I needed something, right? And I asked the one junkie, I was like, yo, is there a church around here? Now, I'm not for, against any type of organization.
Let me stop you for a second. Up to this point, young Wes in Bloomsburg, mother getting arrested, DUIs. Is there any faith in your life?
There was. I went to confirmation class, Lutheran, grew up Lutheran. But when the things that happened with my mom happened, the church that I was going to, that I was trying to get my mom to go to, they blackballed us.
They looked down at you.
They shunned us. Right. Yeah, they talked badly about us, and so
that distanced you from.
Yeah, because I didn't know how to separate man from God. And up until that point, I thought that God, you had to go to a certain place at a certain time, at a certain, I had a misinformation about what God was.
Okay.
And
so now you're down the street and you something's telling you need something different.
Yeah, I needed something. And I knocked on the door and I said, "Is this a church?" And they said, "Yes." It was a boxing gym. It was a boxing ministry. And Buddy Osborne takes me into the back room. I had just gotten off, so I was about to dip out. And he prayed over me, and he kept slapping me and keep me awake. And a few days later, I didn't have any money. I didn't know how I was going to get well. And something told me to look up a 12-step meeting. So I was a couple blocks away. I walked down the street. I'm crying. I don't want to live like this anymore. I want off this roller coaster. And I get enough courage to go into the meeting. I sit in the front row. I was the only white person in that meeting. I sit in the front row. I raise my hand. I say, "I need help." And 30 people stopped what they were doing, got up one by one, and hugged me. And in that moment, I felt the unconditional love of a child, the unconditional love that I needed, right? And I didn't feel so alone. I managed to find my way back to my mom's house. I'm 28 years old. I'm living in the same room that I grew up in. And
how long had you been on the street?
It was quick, bro. It was like 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't. I can't handle a lot of pain.
Are you hearing from anybody else down there like that they want to change their life? Like, are you hearing from people next to you like, I can't believe what I'm doing with myself? Are you hearing that at all?
Down there?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody. Yeah.
Everybody says that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No. Nobody's there and is super happy. No. Nobody's excited to be there. Nope. Nobody's sending postcards or anything like that.
They're all saying, "What the hell have we done?" Huh?
Oh no, we know. We know that our life. But here's the thing, you become comfortable in your own
in hell.
Yeah.
You got to get through hell.
You light a fire, you post up a chair and you say, "Hey, this is my life.
This is what it is."
Yep.
Are you ever eating? Or are you just doing drugs?
Arizona.
You don't want to waste your precious money on food, right?
No, 99-cent Arizona iced tea and a bag of Cheetos.
That would be your meals.
That's it, dude. Yep. I wasn't real hungry. I mean, I needed to get dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes away your hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just not out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go from that meeting to how do you find your way back home?
I just told my mom, I was like, I need to come home, but not really telling her why. And then a week later, she walks in on me about to stick a needle in my arm. And the pain in her eyes was more than I could handle, bro. And I just dropped to my knees and I prayed like I'd never prayed before in my life. And it was the most humble prayer. And it was, please, God, help me, over and over and over again. And shortly after that, I found my way back into a 12-step fellowship.
This is in Bloomsburg?
No, this is in Allentown.
Allentown.
So
now.
I grew up in Bloomsburg was the first 9 months of my life, and then it was Allentown, Pennsylvania. After that.
Okay.
So in Allentown, Pennsylvania, I find a 12-step fellowship, and my sponsor is also a convicted murderer. And this is the guy that changed my life. At 18 years old, he pulled out a gun in a bar and shot a guy and killed him. Went to prison for 15 years and came out and changed his life, and then eventually helped me to change my life.
And this is what age now? You're around 30?
Yeah, 30, 29 years old, yep.
When you start this
30.
transformation.
Yeah.
And did we stumble along the way?
We sure did. See, I got clean. I got the girl. I got the job. I got a car and started driving without a license. And then I got high a year later, right? Because I was trying to do all the outside stuff. I didn't want to do the internal work because that was painful. I didn't want to address that 12-year-old little boy. That was too much. I'll make everything look good on the outside, but I'm not gonna do the internal work. And I got high, and I struggled to come back, and it wasn't until I made a complete surrender, which means I told the job I was making $80,000 a year. I said, I gotta go. I told the girl that I was with, hey, you're hot, but you gotta go. And I told the landlord that I gotta go. And I sold my car after driving without a license for 9.5 years. And I started riding a bicycle, bro. And I moved into a recovery house next to Uncle Frank, who had killed 2 people. And Uncle Frank was 70 years old. He had did time in Eastern State Penitentiary, one of the oldest prisons in the country. And I had 2 bags of clothes and my prayers, man. And it was a great place. And this guy said, when you feel like it's all falling apart, how do you know it's not all coming together? Rock bottom is a great place.
Man, I've said that when I would speak at the substance abuse centers.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you people are in the best position of your life.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you got one direction to go. It's up.
Yeah.
If you decide to take your life in a new direction, it's up.
Yeah.
If you want to succumb to the grave, sure.
Yeah.
But you're in the best position to skyrocket.
Yeah.
Just like you said.
Yeah. And the climb is awesome, man. It really is. In hindsight, the climb is great.
I just said on the way here, I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, my buddy who died, he was always focused on the finish line, on that big hit with a business.
Yeah.
Like that was his focus. And he lost the journey, which is our whole life to get there. And he lost his interest in the journey and only wanted, the nugget of gold at the end of the journey, just like you just said.
Yeah.
So you start rebuild. So you get rid of everything and you're pedaling to work.
I just take my hands off the wheel, bro. Completely. Guy buys me a bike for $100. I'm 30 years old. I'm riding a bicycle. I'm taking buses. I got no job, no girlfriend, right? All I have is meetings, my prayers, and some clothes, right? In the recovery house. And everything is telling me, bro, look at you. You're 30 years old. They're laughing at you. You're riding a bike. You're never going to be successful. No girl's ever going to want you. Honestly, Clark, to this day, I don't know who they are. The they is the 6 inches between my ears that keeps me from my dreams. It's that internal dialogue, right? And one day I get this message, man, and the message was from a friend of mine. And he says, go help your mom. Go help my mom. My mom's a massage therapist. I'm a 6 foot tall ironworker welder with big ego. I don't know if you ever did construction work, but everybody's the best. Right? You want me to go rub dudes' backs? You want me to go be a massage therapist? Yeah, go help your mom. I got clean 6 months later. I'm rubbing the dude's back. God, are you sure this is your will for my life? Yeah. And I rode my bike 8.5 miles every single day to go build my family business because she was a Google search away from finding out what happened in 1997. Right. So I set out to make sure that nobody ever talked shit about my family business ever again. And I built that business 1,000% while riding a bicycle. No business experience whatsoever. I could barely read. My motor skills were so messed up as a result of what my lifestyle. And I just woke up every single day. The very first thing I said was thank you. And then I wrote my goals down every single day at the coffee table. And then I would hop on my bicycle and I would listen to these motivational speakers and I would ride my bike to the business and I just kept showing up, just kept showing up, just kept showing up. And then through that process, the business grew 1,000%. I changed the name, rebranded, new website, new technology, new marketing, and everything. And we went from 40,000 a year to 40,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, in 4.5 years through a worldwide pandemic. Right.
Oh, during COVID.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the process of making the decision that you're going to do whatever it takes in order to succeed. There was no other option. Through being of service, I believe that you should leave it better than you found it. I believe that you should make your community a better place as a result of you being there. Every room is better because I'm in it. You add more value than anybody else can. And through that, I'm donating. I do a chair massage event where I'm donating all the proceeds to the local track and field team. And at that event, this woman comes into my tent and sits on my chair. Tall, athletic, beautiful looking woman, right? And I put my hands on her. Now I put my hands on thousands of people. I can read energies. There was something different about her. So I do a Google search. Her name's Joetta Clark. She's a 4-time Olympic athlete. You ever seen the movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman?
Yeah.
That's her real dad. Actually in this area somewhere. Huh. East Orange. Joetta Clark is my best friend as a result of me donating my time and energies to the local track and field team by helping kids. She's got a daughter named Talitha. That's who I'm going to the Olympics with.
Right.
My whole life changed with one decision, just by giving back. So to quick sum it up,
yeah.
The business had reached maximum capacity. We couldn't fit. I had gotten married, built a small family, bought a house, network marketing. Business had reached maximum capacity. Couldn't fit another body in there. One night I hear the same voice and it says, well done. You never ran. You did what I told you to do. And because of your obedience, I got something else for you. But first, I want you to let go of the business. So I gave my mom a $500,000 a year business that I built while riding a bicycle, not because I wanted to see numbers on a screen. This was my family name, dog. My why was so great. That 12-year-old little boy had to heal. And I had to heal by facing my demons. I became a better person as a result of that business. And I gave it to my mom. Here you go. So my prayers were kind of like, yo, what do you want me to do, bro? You know I can't sit. What's my assignment?
Right.
I just gave away a $500,000 a year. I've never been synonymous with success. I meditate every morning, bro. I won't talk to you unless I meditate. It's non-negotiable. One morning during the meditation, I let go of the business, November 22nd, 2022. January 3rd, I'm meditating and I get a message. And God says, oh, you want to be one of the best speakers in the world? All right. Show me you're willing to do whatever it takes, because where I'm about to take you is going to be very, very hard. There's a nonprofit in South Carolina called Fire Pit Ranch. The mission of the nonprofit is they mentor young boys that grow up without dads. Some of these kids seen horrific things. One kid at 11 years old watched his dad pull out a handgun and shoot his mom point blank in the front seat of the car while he was sitting in the back seat. God says, I want you to go down there and I want you to speak to those 200 kids and I want you to tell them that they're enough. But I don't want you to take a plane. I want you to ride a bicycle. So October 1st of 2023, I rode a bike 479 miles to South Carolina to go raise awareness for kids that don't have dads. It took 9 days. It was 52,000 in elevation change, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Imagine telling your wife, hey, God wants me to ride my bike to South Carolina to go speak to kids. I came out of that meditation with tears in my eyes, looked up at the sky and said, are you sure? That's what you want me to do? And I was obedient. And I came home. I get down there. I did what I had to do. I spoke to those kids. I spoke to the group, and I come home, day 3 of processing what had just done, accomplished, and God wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he says, well done, good and faithful servant. Now I'm going to give you your gift. And the gift that he gave me was he showed me how the bicycle is a metaphor for a successful, meaningful, and purposeful life. Watch this. The first thing you have is the handlebars. Those are our decisions. Our decisions create our destination in life. 1 degree to the left or to the right of my handlebars, I'm ending up in a completely different destination. And you are 1 decision away from a completely different life. Next is the frame of the bicycle. That's my mental and physical health, my mental and physical well-being. 1 crack in my bike frame, I'm on the side of the road watching everybody else go through life. 1 crack in my bike frame and nothing else on the bike works. Next is the pedals. Those are my desires. The stronger the vibrational frequency of my desires, the more power I put to my pedals and the further I go in life. What do you want, Wes? Next is the chain. Those are my daily actions. They have to be in alignment with my desires. It's like me saying I want to be financially free or clean from drugs, but my daily actions aren't in alignment. I'm not going to get there. Next is the gears. You got to know when to switch gears at the appropriate time. The gear that I'm in now isn't the gear that I'm going to be in tonight. You got to know when to switch gears, and you have to have a process in order to do that. Next is the wheel. That's my support system. During that 500-mile ride, all my weight was on 1 spoke. And in life, you're going to have to rely on a handful of people. So make sure you got a good, strong support system around you. Next is the tires. Front one's filled with inspiration, back one's filled with motivation. Now, on that ride, I had to check and fill my tires daily. Because if you ever try to ride a bike on flat tires, boy, it makes it real hard to do. And if you ever try to go through life uninspired and unmotivated, boy, it makes it real hard to do. Next is a seat. You're going to have to support yourself, bro. Nobody's going to believe in your dreams like you believe in your dreams, man. You're going to have to support yourself. There may come a time where you're the only person in the world that believes in what you believe in. You're going to have to, how are you supporting yourself from a neuro-linguistic standpoint? What's the internal dialogue that you have about yourself and your potential and your dreams, man? 500 miles, you better bring some water bottles. What's in your water bottles, Wes? Is it filled with shame and guilt, hatred of others, resentments, distrust? Or is it filled with love, hope, optimism, and joy, man? What's in your water bottles? As I got down to North Carolina, I started to go through some tunnels. And I got into the middle of the tunnel and it got dark. And I tried to turn my light on, but it wasn't charged. So when I got to the next tunnel, I flagged down a car and said, hey, can I go in front of you? Because it's dark in there and I can't see. In life, we're going to go through some dark tunnels. It's just life. Make sure that your light's charged up so you can illuminate the way. But if not, you can borrow someone else's light when the times get dark. But make sure you're doing something to charge up your spirit. Lastly is the brakes. Everything in the universe is subject to the law of rhythm. The sun goes up, sun comes down. Tide goes out, tide comes in. It's been winter, spring, summer, fall for the last 6,000 years that we know it. Sometimes you're grinding uphill, making it happen. But sometimes you got momentum and you're coasting down. On those downhills, don't forget to use your brakes. Slow down. Take in the views and enjoy the ride, man. We get so fixated on getting to the destination that we completely miss the entire journey. And recovery in life is so beautiful at 8 miles an hour. So keep pedaling. And that was my gift. That's my book.
Love it. Love it, dude. I don't know what more to say after that.
We're done.
I love it. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
www.westleymorris.com. That's Westley with a T, Westley, Morris.com.
Awesome.
Yep, and all the social medias. Shout out to Michelle Jean for setting this up and introducing us.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a beautiful person.
Wow, that's a heck of a story. That's a heck of a life. I'm so glad you made it out alive, man. You're here to inspire others.
I went from selling bottles of water, a homeless heroin addict in North Philadelphia, to going to the Olympics and inspiring millions of people, man. You can change your life with one decision.
It can happen.
Let's go.
For any of us.
No doubt.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. There you have it.
Whoa.
Westley Morris, crushing it in life, survived Kensington Avenue. That just shows that you can overcome whatever you're facing. See you next week. Peace.